I am here with Anne Laure Jackson. Hello, Anne.
Hello, it is great to be here.
This week wearing glasses.
I know it's like on, off, on, off. Anybody who's at the stage of life where I am, you understand completely. It's like,
Yes, I'm a 24/7. Well, not quite glasses wearer. I don't wear them at night when I'm asleep. That would be a bit silly, but maybe some people do. I mean, maybe your eyesight's so bad you kind of strap them on, think, well, if I'm going to wake up in the night, I have a clock that's quite large deliberately because I can't see it without glasses.
And imagine if you need to nip to the bathroom during the night. It's probably quite handy to have that. It's kind of like you can see everything that's going on.
Do you know, I used to have a clock that projected the image onto the ceiling. And the reason I did that was not because it was lazy. It was because it was so big I could actually read it in the night. If I woke up, I just pressed the button, illuminated the ceiling for me, and I could see the time.
Oh, that is so good.
That was
That is just brilliant, I have to say. And I've not seen that. I need to get that down in my Amazon store. I have an Amazon store on my website. So where I've specifically selected kind of like toys, activities, games, helps, and I've split it into the tactile system. So if you know you need something for your touch system, folks can just go and click in there. Or if they need lots of movement, or if they want some smelly bits and pieces for their olfactory sense, then they can go in there. But I do not, and I have not seen that for time. I think that is brilliant. I think there's a lot of people who would really appreciate actually being able to see the time really well.
And even better, it was a radio controlled one. So when the hour change happened, it changed the hour. So I never ever woke up late.
Oh, oh, it's those little things, isn't
Oh,
it?
isn't it just? And also, it wasn't a bright light when you pressed the button on the screen. It was like a more of a reddish color, orangey color. So when you pressed it, it was nice and gentle. It wasn't. I've just seen the bright lights of a headlight at 2 o'clock in the morning bright.
To
Like,
wake you up and
yeah,
get your brain thinking, all right, morning time, all right, just such a shock to the system that it really over alerts it, and therefore it's hard to calm back down again and go to sleep.
yeah. On my current clock, if you can knock with something plasticky or hard, like a
Mm.
torch, and you hit the top of the bedside table, it makes the clock wake up, which is brilliantly clever. Except for the fact it has four modes of brightness. There's very dull, perfect for the nighttime, extending to the sun focused into your retina level of brightness. And if you've accidentally pressed it and then you knock the thing at 3 o'clock in the morning, that is like having your retina burned by the clock.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then you're wide awake thinking, wow, I'm awake now. And I was happily asleep and I just heard a noise. And yeah, clock manufacturers, sort out the brightness level, make it automatically dim at night, please. Right. We are working through a series of sensory health scenarios. Let's call it that, shall we?
Oh, that's clever.
That sounds posh, doesn't it? Basically, we've done a sensory healthy, and I've forgotten already. Sensory health, what have we done?
We started with church because I've already
Thank
done
you.
that one.
Yes, we did that one. Sensory health church. And then last week we looked at the other one,
That
which
we
is that all we've
started
done?
at church, and that's as far
That's
we
fine.
know where we're heading because we could like we you're oh I tell you what, we talked about sensory healthy circus because of the tricks that I was
Yes,
going to be involved, but I'm heading to the circus on Friday. How good is that? That's completely out of the
that's
blue.
cool. Why?
Well, we headed to the airport to pick my son. My son was arriving back home after having 2 years of being here, then everywhere. And as we drove home, we saw the circus on the left. And you know, when you're all excited and you're all happy and life has changed slightly, and you kind of think, oh, what can we do? You know, you're just in the mood to do things differently. And we were just all sitting there in the car and thinking, oh, should we go to the circus? And like even my youngest son like said, I've never been to the circus. And I thought, oh, is that a bad mummy? So it's like, oh, I shall maybe can we definitely keep circus till afterwards because I shall be able to reflect with absolutely clear experience because it's been years since I've been to the circus itself. I just knew I wanted to look at the sensory health side of it because the activities that go on within a circus are phenomenally good for your sensory health, depending obviously on your actual sensory thumbprint, but there are so many good things that you can actually do to help your coordination and to help your arousal levels. If you go to the circus, now that is a different experience and that needs a very different strategy and ways to think about how to cope with that. But
Hmm.
mm.
Well, here's one for you. I thought party celebrations, weddings might be quite a useful topic.
Oh, funnily enough. Oh,
Funnily
yes.
enough.
Funnily enough, that'd be amazing. Yes. All the things that you would consider. Yes, because there is a wedding in our household. So it's yes.
A sensory healthy wedding. event. Let's call it an event because it's more than just a ceremony, isn't it? It's what it should be.
Mm.
We hope it is.
Oh, and the full day. And because it is a full day, you really do have to think. So yeah, actually, if I knew that anybody coming to the wedding had differences, had additional needs in any way, shape, or form, absolutely, they would be things that I would be looking at every single day, sorry, every single hour of what is happening and be part of that organization. Because if you when you are organizing an event, if you can pay attention to the little details as you go through the day, it really is a godsend for people to be able to come to an event and know that they will be able to stay there for that time or for as long as they feel is comfortable, because so many little things along the way would have been pre-thought of, for them.
So when I was sort of 16 to 18ish, there was quite a large number of weddings going on in the church. And as somebody who was kind of the lead keyboard player, I was often said, "Oh, could you come and do the music at the church service?" And it's fine, I didn't mind doing it. But then we were invited to the party afterwards, and there was a bit of a complaint at one point because, well, could you not come for the food? Right, so you want me to lead the music in the church service? You want me to come to the party but not eat? Okay, so do you want to know how much it's going to cost you for the musicians to come to your wedding festival? Oh, and well, perhaps you could just come in for the food then, because there was an expectation we just do it all for free and save the money. It's like, well, no, you paid for everything else. You either pay for us to come and do your church service wedding, or pay for an organist if you want to do that. More expensive, by the way, or just give us some free food at the thing you want us to come to. But I do remember it was quite tiring. Now that's a very unique perspective, I guess. The wedding photographer, probably another perspective of somebody who's just expected to be there for 28 hours within the same day, taking a million photos and not need to go to the toilet or eat food. But there's all sorts of things we can look at for weddings, including the bride and groom. You're married. We've got married, Joe and I, in 1996, and there were parts of that which were good. There were parts which were quite stressful. So there are so many different things. You've got the wedding ceremony where you're asking 4-year-olds to sit still. Yeah, right, whatever. But this is what we expect. But actually, there are some quieter bits where we want to be respectful and have some reverence for what's going on in the service, because it's serious, it's important. It's a legal contract signing, which is what somebody was shocked by one time. I had to sign a contract. Well, yes, you did. What did you think the wedding was about? It's not just a bit of fun. So there's lots we can explore today.
Oh, absolutely. Like, where do we start?
Let's go to the wedding photographer. The person that you want to employ at your wedding to take photographs. Now, we had a family member do it because we were trying to do it on a budget. But let's start with that person, because they are serving the bride and groom. They are serving the entire party and the entire day. But they have specific requirements, like they need to eat and drink and go to the toilet. They're a human being taking the photos. They're going to have batteries that are going to run out. Regardless of what they try and do, there's going to be a dud battery somewhere. But that's going to create stress for the bride and groom who want that special moment. Well, the photographer's camera is now flat. It happens, the stress level. So let's start just with a simple one of a wedding photographer. How can we best help them have a sensory healthy wedding?
This is like, yeah. Organization totally is the key. The routine, the planning, having it thought out, having it written down. I think communication is massive when it comes to the organization that they have to do. There's a lot of it that they could probably sneakily take themselves away if they need it. They've got a bag and they've got some snacks, and they can, take themselves away, like toilet wise. But if there are specific times, that's what we need to organize and to make sure that we can stick as close to as possible. The times where those key moments are. Maybe it's the bride before she gets in the car. Maybe it's the bride getting ready. Those key moments are things that then they have to move around. That the photographer would organize themselves around it. But it's funny, getting the lighting has to be right. So getting the visual experiences just right. That's kind of crucial, isn't it, really, for a photographer more than anything. And the positions and the heights and the adjustings, and checking what their vestibular sense is like. Whether they can cope being up high if they want photographs that are taken down. Just getting the right sensory fit, and making sure that if the photographer is neurodiverse in any way, shape or form themselves, that they can communicate that clearly, because they will be beautiful at taking photographs because their attention to detail in the visual system, for many, especially if they're on the autistic spectrum, their attention to detail visually, that's a real strength. And as a photographer, it is a beautiful thing. But it does mean that the way that they communicate has to be in a way that is easy for the bride and groom. And that's, I would say, actually the groomsmen. We're making sure that our best man is someone who is able to do that communication, is a good communicator, to be able to liaise between the bride and the groom, who do not want any organisation on the day whatsoever. It is their day. They just want to relax, chill, and enjoy it as best possible. So it's everybody else's job to serve. That's why you've got your bridesmaids and why you've got your groomsmen and your best men. So we've made sure that there is good communication for our best man. He is going to be our main coordinator, organizer, and the person who will round people up. So we've made sure, like auditory wise, that there is going to be clear communication, either with the use of his voice or otherwise. We're not going to quite bring in a lifeguarding whistle, although that was considered because there's a lot of lifeguards in our family, just to be able to round people up so that when the photographer says, right, okay, we now need the bride and groom, that it is clear that there is that communication and people get to where they need to, and that the photographer's in the right position and at the right angles. And yeah, so I just think communication so that things beforehand of the day can be as relaxed as possible, for everybody, to reduce arousal levels, because it is pretty stressful just because it's so new and different. Everybody's excitable, and excitement and stress are basically do the same thing to the body. Weirdly enough, it just sends all of you've got the cortisol, you've got the adrenaline, you've got everything pumping, but not because of a negative stress, but because of a positive stress. But it is still the same effect on the body.
But a good photographer and a bad photographer. I mean, I've met both at all these, I don't know how many weddings there were loads at one point. But the really bad photographers were the really grumpy ones who swore at you because you're in the wrong position and you're not smart. And they were horrible, and they didn't help the photo bit to go well. And then there were other ones who just laughed and joked and relaxed. And even when it went completely wrong, they just laughed the way through. Because you know what? You only get one wedding that's going to be like that. I don't care if you get married again. It's not going to be the same day because everything's different. The temperature's different. The situation is different. But a good photographer who's got clear expectations and has been respected of the fact they need to drink and eat and go to the loo, that can make a difference to the wedding photos. But also, I think it's remembering that the wedding photos, that's not your wedding day. That's just a memory of the wedding day. So don't put too much pressure on that.
Yeah, that's a lovely point. An absolutely lovely point.
I have many thoughts on weddings. So that's photography. Let's look at the family that's coming. There's been a trend, maybe not a trend, but there's been a thing I've seen repeatedly: no children at the wedding, which I just think is such a sad thing. It's like, okay, well, that's going to miss out most of families because there's so much pressure on a perfect day, and a child throwing a wobbly or whatever is going to ruin the day. A little Andy B top tip: your wedding day is not your marriage. It's a day. Okay. Make it about the family and people you want to have around you. And by the way, children quite probably in your future. It's kind of what happens. And so barring children or younger people, if it's for your guest list, we've had people billing people, come to my wedding. It'll cost you £5,000 because I want the perfect day. And the amount of pressure people are sometimes putting on the day just exacerbates all the pressures that are there already. So for the bride and groom, what are the best things that they can do so that when the day comes, because it's usually quite long, you're probably up late the night before because you're getting nervous. I know I was. And there's lots of last minute preparations. Then on the day, it's quite early, perhaps the haircut or go and get your suit or whatever it is you've got to do. So by the time you're standing at the front of the church, ready to say I do, you're already thinking, I just want to go to sleep. I remember that quite clearly. Or where's the dinner? So brides and grooms, how can they best help themselves prepare for the wedding day?
I think on the morning itself, I think either having like an early and early, so you're not waiting. So then you can just like chill and relax, or you leave it. I mean, our one's been put later to the afternoon, so there's time, maybe for a workout in the morning. I always think proprioceptive, getting some form of exercise, or going for a swim, or going for a sauna. I know it sounds kind of random when you think, oh, I've got to organize this and I've got to organize that. No, you don't. All that needs to be done before. So just do as much of the organizing as possible. So on the whole of the day itself can be although there's that lovely nervous excitement, there's not a stress of the timings, that there's not that pressure. Or as I say, so you've either organized it so you just get up and you go. So it's kind of like breakfast and right, let's get ready. We just have to, just got an hour and a half, whatever it is, you need to do what needs to be done. And then you've got the service and then you're off on your, or you take it just that bit easier and you give yourself that freedom. But I would always put in some form of timeout. And I think that's actually going back to the photographer, where the photographer can really help the bride and groom after they've had the service and in between the reception, as most people do. There is a kind of a pause when the bride and groom can go away and get photographs somewhere else, and that's a really important downtime when they've had so much attention on them, and there's been a lot of talk, a lot of just so much buzz happening beforehand, that period of time in the afternoon is a very precious and I think important time, when if the day is lasting for quite a long day, we do need those portions in between the day for activity and time out, and a withdrawing from all the sensations, the lights and the chatter and the touching, because often people wear different clothes as well for weddings, which their skin system can be aggravated by.
Mm.
So some of the brides, one of the brides, I was chatting last year with a bride, and we were talking about what other underlayer she would have underneath her dress, because she loved the outside of the look of the dress but didn't like the feel of it. So it's about putting undergarments that are going to protect the skin from the discomfort of what a wedding dress is going to feel like. And even like the flower girls, again, you might have your daughter, or there is a nephew and a niece if they're going to a wedding, and they have to wear different types of clothes, and for some of our sensory children that's a nightmare. It really is. So it's trying to make sure that you get them to the play part beforehand and make sure they're not too hot and sweaty, but you get them into their wedding outfits the last thing possible, and that you stroke the skin, and that you bring their arousal levels down, and you give them plenty of plenty of things to play with and pull on. And I think always having food, if children are there, having food as a snack is really important, and water, so that you can keep them as comfortable as possible. But yeah, get them into their wedding outfits as late as possible, get them out of their wedding outfits as quickly as possible. If they need a change of clothes in the middle of the day, do that. And certainly give them space for littlies, just as the bride and groom need their time just to withdraw and just go, whew, just for a little while. Then the children, more often than not, will need some space to run around. So run around before the service, run around after the service, and have some games, activities, and snack food while they wait. Because we tend to put food at different times on a wedding day. Just seems to be the way that it is, and that can mess people's systems up, especially when they need that regularity of eating and food and blood sugars and things like that.
Here's another one. Someone has an aversion to light. You've got a photographer with some nice, big, powerful studio lights that are flashing away, perhaps the olden days, which I might remember, making a little whirry noise as they recharge afterwards. Probably less of an issue today, but that's something else that also we can think of. It's a bit like, if you don't like loud noise, do not sit in front of the speaker and then complain. Shut up or move. One of the two. Don't sit in front of the speaker and say it's too loud. Move away. But in the same way, actually, we can think about people who might struggle with sudden flashing lights, which is perhaps more common of an issue, I think, for some people, because that's less of a I can't cope with light. It's, will you stop flashing things? I was seeing some sort of movie people getting photo, and you can see they're just I need some darkness because it's too much. But in the same way at the wedding, we can think, I guess, can we, about people who don't like the flash, and what could we do to help them if light that flashes from a camera would be something they would struggle with?
Flashing light is hard because you want to try and catch the same way where, like I asked you before we came on about the glasses. You know, is that going to be a helpful look or is it not? Apart from the fact that I can't see you, but I know you're there. So, I mean, I can see you, but it's nice to see you in detail rather than like Andy Blur rather than Andy B. You know, but like you have you can put sunglasses on to help with a flash, but it's like, oh, but then you lose the connection with your eyes, and people like to see eyes. So yeah, it's hard, but just give yourself, it's almost like prepare yourself that it's going to happen. Don't expose yourself, don't be in photographs, you know, that you don't need to be. See where the photographer can help you, because they also might be able to find different spots where they can take, or if they know that you've got particular hypersensitivity or overreactivity in the visual system, that you tell them that and say, look, I need to have my photos outside, and if we can have it during the day at this time, and then don't worry about if I'm not there for, you know, the evening reception, you know, or I don't need photos at that time, or you pre-arrange it so that the times when a flash would be necessary, you don't actually have to be in those photos, or that you just accept you'll have to grin and bear it for a short while, but then you go and retreat and recover and do things that are nice for your sensory system so that you can bring yourself back to a lovely calm and alert state and happy to be there, rather than over aroused or overwhelmed by the visual input.
Because we want photos of the day. That's an important part of the whole remembering that day that we got married. And that ceremony for me and Joe, that was important. But I also remember there weren't flashlights all of the time. One, because it was a tiny wedding, but that could have been quite distractive. And I think most of the time it's like, please no flash photography. Well, the reason is it's distracting for everybody, including probably the vicar at the front, who's now just blinded and can't read the notes, and he's just married the wrong two people. You know, so we do have to be cautious about that. But that's an easy one to say, okay, in this part of the service, we're just letting you know there is some flash photography.
Mm.
And you can alert people to that, I guess, and then try and work around it. So again, you're bringing in the photographer, so they've got their time when they can use a bit of a flash photography, as opposed to them flashing and everyone's grumbling at them and them feeling bad and guilty, and it builds up their own frustrations. And then I don't want to be here, but I've got to be here, and all that starts to just churn around. So there's an awful lot we can do. We're only glancing on the surface here.
Yeah.
To make the wedding day better. So we've done bride and groom, we've done the photographer, we've touched a little bit on a small child who may not want to sit still. Thanks very much at 2 o'clock on the afternoon, because this is my playtime after lunch. So we need to think about those things, but it's preparing people and a little bit of tolerance. But the thing that I always love that you bring back in, yes, let's be tolerant, but also there are times when being quiet is actually good, and learning to be quiet, even if it's not normal for you or it's not what you would do. It's about respecting other people.
Mm. And I think thinking about the noise side of it, the fact that we're going to have a big organ. So we're actually going to a different church where it's going to be big. It's a big Church of England, and there is going to be noise. I mean, the organ is going to be a new sound for us, because we haven't been in having organ music. That's been a long time since we've experienced that. And I know that for some people, going back or having organ music from when I did the Sensory Healthy Church program, the organ music was an issue just as much as a modern band was an issue for people's auditory processing. So it would be, if you know where that event is going to be, if you want to go to a wedding where you know what the music, if you are going to have an organ, then maybe see if you can actually prepare yourself, go and experience what it's like, because the acoustics in every place is different. And you might actually find that you can tolerate it in this particular place really well, just because the acoustics are different. Or you might know that you'll need to bring something else to help you cope, or you'll find a quieter spot within the church where you can quite happily sit. And again, if people know that, or the people that you care about know that you're not meaning to be offensive by sitting near the door at the back, you know, and it's not as if they don't feel welcome. It's just that is the best place for them to sit, so that there is a love and respect from the bride and groom's perspective, but also, you know, just that everybody's comfortable in whatever they can cope with. But the organ music, yeah, that was something that came to mind. That do prepare, go and sit in that place before the actual service itself. Because most of us, there is notice, if you are going to an event, you've got weeks to build up to it. So you can really plan and prepare And if people have, if you've got a child who's on the spectrum who needs to know what's going to happen, again, by actually going to visit that church beforehand or visit where the reception is going to be beforehand and just have a little wander around, you know where the toilets are, you know where this is, you've got an idea where you'll sit. They can get a feel for how hard the pews are or what the fabrics are like, of any cushions that it might need to sit on. But have a sensory explore, have an awareness so that there's nothing, or there is less that is going to be overstimulating to the senses in the environments that you're going to that is new. Because the one thing about an event or a wedding or anything is that the experiences are new. They are different to the norm. So prepare yourself as much as possible for what is coming.
As much as we had lots of weddings, it was very hard to say, well, this one was just like that one, and it was the same thing. Yeah, some of the receptions tended to be the same place. It was a good big hall. It was cheap, not far away. Of course it's going to be. And some of the church services were fairly similar, a bit formulaic, I suppose, not in a negative way, but you've got, the ready out bit, you've got the bride and groom at the front bit, you've got the vicar doing the talky bit. There are some of those things, but actually, as I look back, a lot of them were very different. And like you say, different times of day. You're thinking, well, come on, I'm hungry now. Why are we sitting here? Well, we just started the ceremony. So it's about planning ahead and thinking rather than getting caught out, which is going to happen. But the more you can minimize getting caught out by being hungry or whatever, the better it's going to be, which brings you on to emotions. Emotions are heightened at weddings, either because of sadness or joy. I mean, not bad, but I mean, it's sadness, things are changing and you've got the joy as well. So how can you best prepare your emotions, which I guess aren't technically sensory, but if we don't work out our emotions, our sensory stuff is going to go all over the place.
Yeah, and they're going to feed into each other. And again, I always use, even if something has an emotional base, if it has a behavior base, if it has a trauma base, sensory strategies are so powerful in being able to help regulation. And we call regulation, that self-regulation. When you can do it yourself, that is a big part of emotional control. So yeah, setting yourself up before. It's nice. I think dress rehearsals are quite good for that. And if you're not actually involved in the wedding party, to have a dress rehearsal, then do a mental dress rehearsal yourself as much as possible. And imagine what is going to be happening, what is going to be said. So if there are tears for whatever reason, I mean, thankfully, in a way, we're quite used to tears at weddings. It happens, but some people don't want to be doing that in companies. It's almost as if you have a good cry beforehand, or if you know that you can sense your body reacting to something that's going to be said or something that's going to be done or someone that's going to be there, because that's the other side of it. Who else is going to be coming along, that you mentally rehearse things that you can say that are positive, that are gracious and that are kind, things that you know that you'll need to have in your handbag or stuck in your pocket, hankies, tissues, or little. Sometimes it's really good to have these quotes you can actually put in your phone on your voice memos, and that you can play to yourself, to put yourself in the right mindset for either seeing that person or for the things that are going to be coming up, and things that will help you emotionally stay a little more regulated, rather than losing it on the day.
Losing it on the day. Never a good look. Never great. Let's just move to past the ceremony. Let's go to an evening do, which would be fairly common. You'd have a meal, generally speaking. When we were doing it a long time ago, you'd have different parts and people would come for the food, and then more people would come for the party and the dancing bit afterwards, with the dad dancing, which is a whole other thing. But how can we best prepare for that as organisers of that part of the event? Because we were recently at a thing and there was some food. It was very late. They apologized, but it was becoming quite problematic because when the food started to come out, that's the bit when they were doing some speaking at the front, which made it a bit awkward because we're supposed to be focusing over here and we've got people saying, oh, do you want some salt with that? And it's like, not the best timing. It's the way it was. And you do have to just adapt and overcome. That wasn't their intention. They weren't trying to be late with the food. They knew it was a bigger problem for themselves. So this isn't the hotel was lazy or couldn't be bothered. I mean, they don't want to serve you food that's late and overcooked because it's more work for them. So how can we best prepare as the organizer of the evening do, shall we say, how can we best consider all the people who might be there?
Having choices and spaces for people, making sure that people can hear. Ironically, we've spoken about the things can be too loud, whether it be the band or the organ or whatever. But in a reception, it's vitally important that everybody who needs to be able to hear isn't totally bombarded with the sound of whoever is speaking or doing the speeches. But it is really important that we can actually hear what is going on. So if there are things happening in the background, there is still, our ears can have an auditory discrimination to pick out the sound of a voice, of something that is important, that is communicated, because people put an awful lot of time, energy, and effort into these speeches, wherever they're done during the day. So having that clarity there. What I really like in some of the invitations that are coming out now for weddings is that the timings, where it is possible to be in control of those timings, the timings are actually written in the invites so that people have a really clear idea of what at least is expected. Things will always happen, won't they? I mean, yeah, as you say, that the hotel didn't want to be late with their food, but they just were. It was just the way that it happened. But having those timings set inside a card, again, can think if someone knows that they can't tolerate lots, if the flashing lights come on, if the noise does get increased, they might be able to compensate for that by the dancing, but it also might be more technical. There might be a ceilidh. There might be something that demands motor planning and coordination, and they're busy trying to work out, I don't even know what my left hand is, what and then I have to cross hands, and then I have to turn this way, and then I have to turn that way, and I have to remember a whole sequence of activities that I have to, do 5 this way and then 5 that way, and then we turn around and this, that, and the other. And for some, that's just not going to, it's just not going to be a good fit. So it's preparing the people who are coming that there's no expectations to have to join in with the dancing if it's particularly a coordinated dance, but making sure that there's places, there's drinks, there's other people that are around that are there to talk with someone if they want to, or just a place to withdraw to, that they can be happy to observe what's going on, but there's no pressure to need to actually engage. And then, of course, people can leave whenever they want to. And for some people, just 20 minutes of an evening reception, that is enough. You said, and you can say your goodbyes and then go.
I think in some ways, like any of these areas we're going to be looking at, it's easy to think, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? There's so much thing. I'm never going to be, let's just forget it. We can't do it. It's too complicated. But actually, so frequently, there's a lot of really simple things that we might instinctively want to do and easily can do to help a lot of people, like writing the timing for the day for folk who need to take insulin. If they're diabetic or they need to have it between, half an hour before the meal or whatever, to know it's at this time, you've just taken a huge amount of stress. And there are some really simple things that you can do literally by just writing the intended timings of the day and trying to stick to them. Having a set times set times for photography. So any flash photography is perhaps limited. I know you don't always need that, but perhaps to say, look, we want to use some flash photography in this part of the service. So people are prepared, and you can put that on the card. And it doesn't need to be overbearing, does it, to actually think about an awful lot of people and making it a lot easier. Little spaces, I suppose breakout rooms, you might call them today. We had one where we went to a pub and there were like 4 or 5 rooms in the pub. Some had music, some didn't. Some had a bar, some didn't. So you could kind of find a space out of the 5 rooms where, oh, I'm quite happy here. And you can move back into the noisy bit and back out again. We call them breakout rooms today, but other spaces is the other way to put it. So there is a lot we can do, isn't there? I mean, the occupational therapy part of you is how can we help you engage with the wedding? The sensory health is how can we help you with your senses into this and all that? But there is so much we can do, isn't there, for the emotional strain of a wedding day? And it's an emotional strain. It just is always going to be because it's huge.
Yeah, and everybody wants it to get to go as well as possible. I love wedding planners, especially. I mean, I suppose there could be a sense of being able to go in and support and equip wedding planners, and just thinking, because there's an awful lot that they do terribly well. It's just maybe we need a little extra sensory awareness with some of the things that they are asking to really be able to help the couple and people who come, the actual wedding guests. There could be some little tweaks that could be done there to make their wedding planning just even better.
Let's just finish briefly on the bride and groom. For the bride and groom, I mean, I'm looking back to 1996 when we got married, and I remember there were some really good points and some low points on the day. I did not have a great wedding day because of family issues. But there are also some really exciting moments. But one of the things that we built in was opportunities for Joe and I to actually just be together as best as we could, within the confines of quite a small pub in a village in Devon. But actually, I still look back at the day fondly because planning went into it. Um, in a sense, I would say the wedding day is not just about the bride and groom. I think it's about the wider family. Although obviously the bride and groom are the focus, they're at the front, they're on top of the cake, you know. But what would be your top tip for the bride and groom if you can give them like one thing to help them through the day, which is usually long, tiring, and stressful in good and bad ways? What would be your top tip to the bride and groom preparing to go into their wedding day?
Be as much themselves in what they wear, what they look like, how they speak, what their expectations are. Just don't try and be something that you don't feel as though you need to look utterly beautiful, because you will be beautiful. Everyone will think you're beautiful if you're the bride, just because you're the bride. So choosing, choosing something, choosing your outfit that you feel comfortable in, choosing makeup and hair. Don't go over the top, because you'll look completely different to your husband to be as well. It's just like, well, that's. I mean, she might look beautiful, but is that the girl that I know? He fell in love with you because of how you look without, £1,000 worth of makeup on your face, unless you do that on a daily basis. But most of us don't. But so, and if you want to enjoy and push the boat out, then enjoy it and go all out. But if you don't, I think there is something. That's because I'm more of a natural type person. Just go with what, if you like it, do it. If you don't. There are very few. I mean, you're saying I do. I mean that's the contract, isn't it? You're saying I do, and you're signing your name, and ultimately that is what it is. It's like, if you're a Christian, it's like, well, God, here we are. We're bringing two lives into one to create a new household. So it's that simple. Bottom line, that's what it is. So how you choose to do it during your day is, be free and enjoy. Yeah, go the whole hog if you want to, but cut it right back if you don't.
Make it your day, I suppose, is my version of that one. Make it your day. This is your day to remember. Don't do what everybody else wants around you. It's not their day. That's for another day. They've either had it or it's going to come. This is your day. So make the most of the opportunity to celebrate with family and friends, the joining together of husband and wife in a marriage, and have your friends and family there to support you. But yeah, I absolutely agree. The most important part, ours was really simple, stripped back wedding. The most important part is remember why you're doing it in the first place. And it's not to look good on the day, it's to start a new home, a new family together. Oh, right. I like weddings. Weddings are good fun.
Yeah.
Right, Anne, thank you. We'll do more of these. If you wanted to contact with Anne and ask her some help about your wedding, how do I make it more sensory healthy friendly, you can do so. pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/ALJ, and you can connect with Anne Law Jackson for all that she does.
Thank you.